Hey y'all, this is Orrin. Welcome to Magnolia Bend. It's usually a lot greener around here this time of year, but we've been under severe drought conditions for months now. We just can't seem to get any rain. And as we deal with the dry weather, it got me to thinking about droughts and what we can do to mitigate some of their effects. Well, that's what this video is about, so stay tuned, it's coming up. You know, something else we got to deal with down here on the Gulf Coast is hurricanes. But a storm like that can be seen and located and tracked. A drought is different. It's the absence of rainfall rather than the presence of something, so you might not notice it right away. Droughts are sometimes referred to as creeping disasters because they occur slowly over many months or years, and often over a wide area. But there's no clear definition of what a drought is, and it isn't easy to say exactly when a drought starts and when it ends. In addition to rainfall, scientists also have to monitor things like temperature, since higher temps can make droughts worse by evaporating more water and sending it elsewhere. And on top of that, each area's unique geography and climate are going to have a big impact on how it's affected by a drought. One of the most obvious signs of drought in this area is all the vegetation starting to wilt and die back. You can see the difference in color here between the grass in the low-lying section, which is watered by the bay when the tide rises, and the grass up here on the hill. They're supposed to be the same color. And of course, pretty much everything in the garden suffers greatly during a drought. Smaller containers in particular become untenable because they dry out so fast. Even raised beds can dry out faster than we can water them sometimes. Once the soil gets to about 96 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius, the microorganisms in it aren't going to be too happy, which means our plants aren't either. The best solution here is to deeply mulch around everything and on top of any bare soil. We could have done a better job of that this year, and that's something I want to improve on next season. I suspect that as temperatures continue to increase and we experience more and more dry conditions like this, we're going to need some sort of drip irrigation to keep the soil moist and cool it down during the hottest parts of the day. We actually have something like that in the works, starting with this rain barrel that we set up recently. The next stage on this project is to install a section of gutter to feed it, and then we'll figure out exactly how we want to run the irrigation. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you'll know when those videos are released. We'd love to have you along for the ride. Another thing you might notice during a drought is more dead wildlife. We had a pair of house wrens make a nest on our back porch this summer. One day I went out there and all the chicks were dead, presumably from heat or dehydration, since they showed no visible signs of injury, and it was especially hot during that period. On that same note, you can expect wildlife to seek fresh water during a severe drought, so I try to keep our bird baths topped off with fresh water to give all the critters and insects something to drink. Droughts can also cause problems for people who get their water from a well. Groundwater levels rise and fall throughout the year naturally, but a drought can cause them to decline to the point where the well can't reach water anymore. Now, we're lucky here in that the water table is quite high, but it's something you may want to consider depending on the depth of your well. Then, there's the macro level effects of a drought. For example, a prolonged drought in the western United States is largely to blame for the historically low levels of water in Lake Mead, which could ultimately leave millions without a source of water, including the city of Las Vegas. And the exceptional drought affecting areas of the central and southern U.S. has reduced the water level in the Mississippi River dramatically, So much so that salt water from the Gulf of Mexico is beginning to intrude upstream and into the water treatment plants that serve the citizens of several Louisiana parishes. I was curious how the current drought in our area has affected our marine life, so I contacted Dr. James Dryman, renowned professor and researcher at Mississippi State University's Coastal Research and Extension Center. He said that salinity is one of the primary drivers dictating how fishes use their environment. Excessive drought can increase salinity in brackish and freshwater creeks and bayous, forcing the fish to move out of those areas in response. Perhaps this partly explains something I noticed this summer, which is far fewer game fish than usual pushing up into shallower inshore areas like Magnolia Bend. It makes sense that fish would tend to stay closer to the Gulf of Mexico, a vast body of water where the salinity isn't going to fluctuate so dramatically during a drought. This migration is something that happens anyway as the summer sun heats up these dark bottom shallows to an uncomfortable degree, but anecdotally, it feels like the drought has exacerbated it. So what can we do if we find ourselves in the midst of a drought? I'll summarize the strategies we've been using, which are protect soil with mulch, keep bird baths cleaned and filled, water in the evening to minimize evaporation, utilize rain barrels or other long-term water storage, and use sprinklers on ornamentals and grasses. With no real end to the drought in sight, we'll continue to refine these techniques and explore others as we try to manage the dry conditions. I don't think most people in modern Western society would even recognize that they're living through a drought, unless they're involved in agriculture or some other pursuit that's closely tied to rainfall. And that's because it hasn't gotten to the point where people turn on their faucets and clean water doesn't come out. At least not yet, for the majority of the United States anyway. But this is a likely outcome for many parts of the world as global temperatures rise and droughts become more frequent and pronounced. And as some regions suffer from a lack of precipitation, others will be inundated with enough rainfall to trigger widespread flooding. In either case, all we can do as individuals is try and learn from the successes and failures of others grappling with these weather events and do what humans do best. Adapt. If you know any other tips for surviving a drought, be sure to let us know in the comments. We're always looking to learn something new. And if you enjoyed your trip to Magnolia Bend, please like and subscribe. We've got a lot of cool things in store for this channel that you won't want to miss. Well, thanks for stopping by, and until next time, good luck out there.